Hi everyone, welcome to Talk Sustain to Me. This sustainability career series is about career stories in the ESG or sustainability sector. In each episode, I interview a young sustainability professional who is in their early or mid-career. The main intention of this talk is to promote the sustainability industry and share career information. In today's episode, I'm happy to have Cindy joining us. Cindy is passionate about sustainability and climate change. She is a chemical and environmental engineering graduate with a minor in business. She strives to make a change in the environmental field in her career. She is now working as a sustainability and climate analyst under a risk advisory team at a Big Four firm in Hong Kong. Hi, Cindy. Thanks for joining today.
Hi. Thanks for having me here.
So my first question for you is related to your background in sustainability. You majored in chemical and environmental engineering with a minor in business. Can you share with us when did your interest in sustainability start and how did you transit from an engineering background to the sustainability risk advisory field?
Okay, yeah. So I chose chemical and environmental engineering as my major. So that major, it's very technical, right? So it's a lot of, for example, like wastewater treatment design, solid waste management, air quality management. So a lot of like calculations like that. And then in my third year, I came across this internship opportunity at an environmental think tank in Hong Kong. So I knew that think tanks were mostly related to like the policy side, right? And I didn't have much experience on that, but I studied a little bit to prepare for the interview and then they accepted me. So I worked there for around 2 months in the summer. And during these 2 months, I feel like I gained a lot of exposure to different topics about climate change. I got to talk to so many people in this field, and I feel like this is something that I really, really enjoy, like the conversations in the office, everything that I worked on. So they were very inspiring people and they really motivated me to pursue a career in sustainability after I graduate. So yeah, but when I was applying for jobs, this is like sustainability broad is very, very broad, right? So I applied to a lot of jobs in the sustainability field. And after some time, I was accepted into this Big Four company under the sustainability risk advisory team. Yeah.
Right, that sounds very fascinating. So it all started with the summer internship, and I'm glad that you enjoyed the internship and you're now working on the sustainability field. So you're now working at a Big Four consulting firm. Can you share with us why did you choose to work at Big Four as your entry-level job in the sustainability field? Like, why Big Four?
I think for me, it was because when I worked at that summer internship, I only had like 2 months to actually dive into the like real world career, right, in the sustainability field. So I feel like I still don't know much about the whole landscape of sustainability. So the main reason is that I'm actually still exploring. I initially didn't know what to do, so that's why I applied to so many jobs, different fields. Like even I applied to like even like technical, environmental engineering fields, and also like business consulting, and also the policy side as well. And I guess I wanted to explore what my strengths are and how I can use that to like contribute to climate action. And also I feel like because I had some experience working in the policy side, so when I got accepted to this firm that I'm working at now, I feel that this would be a very great opportunity for me to explore the other side, the business side, which is a more, practical side, right? So it needs to, like, the action needs to happen on the corporate level, for example. So yeah, I think working at a Big Four firm, it will gives you a lot of exposure because with the scale of the firm, it has a lot of resources and we can work with many different clients and explore different like range of service offerings with a team with diverse capabilities too. So it's a lot of, getting to know the landscape, seeing what is there and trying to see what fits me. So yeah, I chose this job mostly because of the learning opportunities and the global exposure that is offered here.
Yeah, that sounds great. And there are like different Big Four organizations, and they have different departments like sustainability consulting. And some Big Four or some companies are doing sustainability risk advisory. So, can I like learn more about what's the differences between sustainability risk advisory and consulting?
In my point of view, risk advisory and consulting are quite similar. In terms of we advise the clients on what they should do so that they can develop, they can grow their business. But in terms of risk advisory, we focus mainly on risk analysis and strategy formulation based on that risk analysis. And especially in the sustainability and climate field, we're doing a lot of like climate risk assessments. So that's what we do with clients. We focus on climate risk assessments or ESG risk assessments to help them inform their corporate strategy, or just to understand where they could improve on their climate action to minimize their risks that we have identified in that analysis. So yeah, just talking from my experience, like the climate or ESG risk assessments are in a very rapid stage of development now. With a lot of companies, they want to like understand the risks that they're facing and what they can do to mitigate those risks, because it's not very easy to like understand the climate risks maybe in their current capacity. That's why they engage like other like external consulting or like risk advisory teams to help them do that. Yeah.
So it's more about risk assessment. So you mentioned ESG risk assessment and climate risk assessment. What are these risk assessments? Can you briefly introduce them?
Yeah, so climate risks, there are two types, right? So one of them is physical risks and the other is transition risk. So physical risk is more about like how vulnerable your like a company's assets are in terms of physical risk, the physical impacts of climate change. So for example, if a company has a facility near the coastline, which is very susceptible to like sea level rise or flooding, then that has quite a high level risk, right? If the flooding happens, then maybe there will be some disruptions in the operations. And in terms of like transition risk, it is less transparent, I would say. It's less, it's harder to quantify, I would say, because it's more about the impacts that climate change would have on a company's everything, like a company's business, because of the transition to a lower carbon economy. In simple terms. So maybe, for example, there are developments in renewable energy. So a company that relies heavily on fossil fuels, they would face a lot of risk if suddenly this renewable energy enters the market and they lose their competitive advantage. So it's more of a, like either like there are a lot of scenarios involved in the assessment, because for example, if the world, for example, the world goes to a scenario where everyone in the world is going to a rapid decarbonization, then there will be a lot of transition risks involved. But if we stay on the current, like what we are doing now, we're just emitting a lot of carbon, there would be more physical risks in the long term. So it's like I would say it's a spectrum of how much risk you might have, physical and transition risk, and that's how my current role is helping with the risk assessment. Clear?
Yeah, you explained it really well. Like what's climate risk? Like there are physical risks and there are also transition risks, and how these climate-related risks would translate into maybe financial or more risk to the business, right? It's a really great explanation. Can you share us more about like your day-to-day job as a risk analyst other than the working on risk assessments? Like, are there any consulting part, reporting part, or strategy development? Yeah, what kind of job or task do you usually work on?
Yeah, so aside from those risk assessments, I also was involved in a few other projects, like doing some research for a company who are maybe like they wanted to analyze like decarbonization pathways in like various sectors. So there was a lot of research involved, and I think that's actually like one of my strongest suits. So I have been tasked with a lot of research, and I think yes, I also did like some reporting stuff. I assisted with some reporting for company sustainability reporting. I think just a lot of exposure to different projects. That's what I like about this job as well, because it's just a diverse team and we have a lot of services. So it's a really just a whole learning process, which I really love.
Yeah, so what sustainability knowledge or skills have you learned so far?
Because the sustainability field is still very rapidly developing. There are a lot of news coming every day. There are a lot of like standards, a lot of frameworks still developing. So I think it's mainly how we can keep up with those stuff and how we can like communicate that with the clients. So one of them is like just paying attention to what is currently going on.
Right.
And also I think the other skills that I have been trying to enhanced there is like research skills. So, as I said, a lot of standards, a lot of frameworks, a lot of, what they call like an alphabet soup of sustainability. There's a lot of abbreviations of like framework standards. So it needs some, reading, like what it is, understanding how it can help our clients. And yeah, and also in terms of like ESG reporting, which I also did, it's a lot of paying attention to details, not just like quantitative numbers, but also in like reviewing the sustainability report, like just being very, very looking into the details. So that is another one. I learned a lot from there because there's a lot of, little stuff that you might not notice at first, but it really matters. But yeah, I think the biggest lesson I learned was that there are like a lot of considerations for a business to commit to climate action. Like I can see how like they're just thinking, oh, what are the costs for me to invest in something? How does it hurt my revenues to like maybe develop a new product in like maybe a low carbon product? It might hurt your revenue. So I do see some reluctance in some of our clients, but I think I feel better thinking that my work, the work of our team, can help steer them in the right direction, and I can provide information that they need to make decisions that are good for the company in the long term. So it's more about like anticipating what's going to happen, right, in terms of climate change.
Yes, that's really helpful sharing. So like you've learned more about the research skills needed to work as a sustainability analyst, and you think it's important to keep up to the latest trends and news in the business. And also being attention to the details is especially important in when you're working on ESG reporting. And finally, one important point is that like there are a lot of considerations for businesses to commit to sustainability, and the role of sustainability analyst or risk analyst or consultant is to help them to work in the right direction. Yeah, that's a really helpful sharing. So finally, my last question for you is more related to career qualifications and certifications. I know that Big Four organizations provide a lot of resources and incentives to support talent development, like encouraging employees to take exams and obtain professional certifications. Can you share if there are any certifications that are helpful for building a career foundation in the sustainability, risk advisory, or consulting field?
Yeah, definitely. There are a number of certification programs available in terms of sustainability and climate. I actually just took one very recently. It's called Sustainability and Climate Risk from GARP, Global Association of Risk Professionals.
Right.
So it focuses on risk assessment of companies, and I think it's like when I was preparing for it, it's very useful information that I actually can be helpful for my work with clients. For this one, there are like 2 exam windows per year, so it's like either April or October, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And the other one is also useful. It's called the CFA, so it's like the finance side. So CFA for ESG. It's quite recognized in the ESG space, and it's more related to the financial side of ESG, so might be useful for those who might want to dive more into sustainable finance. But if you're not, even this is very good stuff to learn, and I'm planning to take this one as well.
Great.
And yeah, I also know another one called I also know like just another one called CHESGA. It's Certified ESG Analyst, and that is also another one that you could check out.
Right. So you've mentioned 3 really famous and important professional certifications. The first one is more on the risk management side. It's called GARP SCR. And the second one is more financial side, is CFA ESG. And the third one is called CESGA. It's more also on ESG. Thank you so much for your time. This is a fruitful sharing. And today we've learned about like sustainability risk advisory. We've learned what are the day-to-day tasks or the role of a risk analyst, some of the work or projects, some knowledge and skills that are needed to take up this role. So thank you so much, Cindy. And for anyone who is interested in learning more, feel free to reach out to Cindy on LinkedIn. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned and see you in the next video.